Hello,
Something right here.
and good evening.
Something right here. This is the wrong YouTube channel. I clicked on the wrong thing, didn't I?
Yep, this is the wrong right YouTube channel with the same
we
different
were
people.
thinking either the Galliard's Guide to Bakshi or like the Ralph Bakshi podcast. Either way, this is the one and only episode we're doing of something like this.
Yes, we're doing
If we were a movie podcast, this is what we would look like.
Yep, it's two dudes sitting here and talking like every other podcast.
Yeah, with the end of the world on the horizon, I decided now is as good enough time as any to do this because it's April Fool's and Easter weekend.
Yes, it is.
And we're talking about one of the biggest Jews in Hollywood. Let's go ahead, let's get into it. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Minority Card, I mean, you share blood with this man.
Oh, I mean, just in Judaism, but when
it comes to this, but you're a reformist. You didn't grow up in New York. You weren't from Brownsville. You didn't hang out with all the rabbis.
No, I did not. But then again, my parents in general were very anti-organized faith in general. They just weren't a huge fan of going to church or going to synagogue every weekend. Just didn't seem like the thing to do, I guess.
Nah, it's pretty stiff these days. I haven't been to Catholic Mass in a while either because I just got bored with it.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
going into this, we've watched Kyle's watched most of these movies. I've seen them all.
Yep.
So we're just going to go through. We're going to talk about Ralph Bakshi's 10 movies. I have notes on them. We're not going to go into stuff that he did for TV, like Butter Battle Book or anything like that.
No.
We're just doing the 10 movies that he made that were feature-length films that were animated, and we're going into that and that alone for this episode.
For the ones that I have not seen, would be surprisingly The Hobbit, Fire and Ice, and Cool World. And
you fake fan! It was Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit was Rankin Bass.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. He did do. Okay, I got the two mixed up. I thought
he did a Lord of the Rings movie, not all of them.
Gotcha. I do know some tidbits about that, but I never sat down and watched them all the way through because I don't know what more I could get out of Bakshi's rendition of Lord of the Rings that I couldn't get out of the Peter Jackson. Except the great
artwork. For usual viewers, this is an April Fool's episode, and for anybody who has no idea what we're doing, this is not what we usually do on the channel. But if you want to stick around, if you like World Darkness and tabletop games in general, then this is a game to check out. But this is not our usual lane.
No,
we'll get back in our usual lane after this episode.
Felt like it.
Just to maintain the mystique of this April Fool's joke, I'm going to DM these banners to you.
Yes.
So, shall we go ahead and start the first movie? Because, disclaimer, Kyle fucking loves the movie we're about to start talking about.
You're goddamn right I do.
Alright. And he can do the voice as well.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, what's the point of having the episode if I can't do all the voices, And all these guys, they go and they sit around and they got their noses buried in their books. Let's talk to all these
I would play the
asses.
soundtrack if it wouldn't get content ID.
Yeah.
So we just got no more heroes in the background. But,
yeah.
Let's. This sounds like fitting enough music for Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, I think that'll do her.
Alright. So, this movie. This is the first movie that Bakshi made. And is a stoner movie. Just out and out, this is a stoner movie. I mean, for the time, you had a lot of... This was the movie that started the trend of low-budget animated adult movies, because nothing like this had existed before. If you don't know who Ralph Bakshi is, this is a guy who worked on Terry Toons for shows like Quick Draw McGraw and a bunch of other stuff that I think is relatively obscure by this point.
Didn't he work on Mighty Mouse for a short bit?
What?
Didn't he work on Mighty Mouse during the last couple of seasons?
In the 80s, he did that. But he said that there needs to be animation explicitly for adults because we had adult cartoons in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and all of a sudden it was just gone with the 50s.
Yes.
And what happened to that? So
he
brought
it
it back.
Of the great moral panic that happened, and people were worried that
communism. You're going to be corrupted through communism. All this stuff must be banned because it's communist.
If you jerk your dick off in a porno theater to an animated cat, well, you're going to become a communist. Obviously.
What else are you going to do in a theater like that, man? Like the whole Pee Wee Herman shit, with him getting caught for doing that in the theater. I mean, what are you You're just going to sit.
That's what you're supposed to do in a theater
with your hands on armrests, not looking at anybody, not saying anything, just enjoying the movie. It's fucking bullshit. He got busted for that, man.
It is. That was cancel culture before cancel culture.
So this was the first real raunchy animated movie that he made, and one of the first to come out in theaters and be a success. This was an adaptation of the comic made by Robert Crumb, who is a very interesting man to follow. If you want to know what a gooner thinks, just go through Robert Crumb's work, where it's just basically him doing a whole comic career of him drawing self-inserts fucking women, with or without consent. I would never recommend the Snoid to anybody, for example.
I don't know what that is.
You don't want to know.
Okay, good.
But going into Robert Crumb, essentially this is what started furries as we know it. This was already a thing with fanzines where you had this fan-made magazine where, hey, if you want to draw a bunch of animal people fucking and get it in your mail, well, join us for a subscription cost and you can submit your images of varying quality. And so it got made, and one of the guys that was in that kind of circle was Robert Crumb, who made Fritz, which was basically what every hippie wanted to do, was just get in the movement and fuck women, because it was the easiest thing to do back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
And this was not a movie that Ralph Bakshi necessarily wanted to make. This was what he needed to get experience and a reputation to make what he really wanted to make, Heavy Traffic. Yeah. It just so happened that he was in a comic book store, saw this, picked it up, thought it would be something that he could adapt into a movie as part of his beginning of an adult animation crusade. Took it by, who the hell was this guy anyway? Krantz. I don't think his first name is worth bringing up because this guy was a fucking like slick, smarmy, scam artist, businessman.
He was.
I'm not a fan of this man, but ran by him, got the funding, got this made, spent 2 weeks at Robert Crumb's house trying to get his contract signed, and then couldn't do it. Krantz had to go over to his wife Dana to get the contract signed, and then we got this, and then Crumb hated the movie so much that he killed off Fritz the Cat as a character. And now we're here.
Yep.
So that's all the history that you really need to know.
Indeed.
And going into this, this is not a movie I would ever recommend anybody sober.
No, certainly not. Even though I watched it sober, I still enjoyed it sober because I'm weird like that.
Yeah, you drink, you don't smoke.
That's correct.
That's the whole thing.
Crush a couple of Millers and watch this movie alone.
The fun thing with Fritz the Cat is that it adapts multiple different short comics of Fritz the Cat. Like, Fritz the Cat didn't really have like an overarching arc or story. It was just, here's this character in this wacky situation, and then he fucks the girl and saves the day, maybe, or ruins the day, depending on what the comic is, and now we're off to the next story. And it's just a few stories where it's him with the college girls, him with the crows that were social commentary stand-in for African Americans.
Yes, it was.
Oh my god!
It was. You know, people would think that, like, oh, this is, like, you know, a very racist depiction of African Americans. No. What Bakshi's doing, Bakshi grew up in Harlem.
This is a Jewish man from Harlem.
Yes, he's a Jewish man from Harlem, you know, grew up around all different cultures, and he saw the injustice that went on throughout New York City from the 50s throughout the 70s. All that was his childhood, and he got to witness that. And so he was sort of like raising some awareness to it, surprisingly, in this very raunchy film that he made, and you know, touched on a lot of the societal woes, as well as the amount of patronization that went on from people like Fritz and like the girls that Fritz was trying to get with in that hippie movement in the 1960s.
The whole middle part of the movie really is just the best part, where he's hanging out with Duke.
Yes.
Where to this day, Duke's still in my mind as a cool character.
He is probably the best character in the film.
He goes to this bar with Duke, and he's going, "Oh, I wish I was a crow. I wish I could help you people in your fight for equality." And Duke just lays out for him, saying, "You can't do that because you haven't lived the same life as us, and therefore you can never really support us."
Yep.
But Fritz doesn't take that seriously now, does he?
No.
In fact, in the same scene, he calls a black man boy, something that you never fucking do.
Yep, and the barkeep tried to stab him. So.
And same thing where this clip is on YouTube, the college girls talking to a crow that they didn't know was gay at the time.
I quote the scene because I could do the voice, but I can't say what he said because
I don't know why the police gotta bother you people so much. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's rough, some of the shit.
How nothing's changed since the 60s.
No, it
Nothing
really doesn't
different.
feel like it.
You listen to this, and it doesn't sound like it's from the 60s. It sounds like it's from today. This is a movie that could be made today, but I don't know. Maybe it's like through AI or something like that. Somebody would self-finance this entire thing and make it, because I'm not sure if you could make this movie again.
No.
I know we
certainly
have stuff like Rick and Morty and all this other crazy adult animation shit. You got Hazbin Hotel getting animated, but I don't know if you can do this again.
This would only exist on Newgrounds, I think. That would be the only place that's.
This is your brain on Newgrounds.com, yes.
Exactly. This is the only sort of place that, a movie like this could exist, because no major distributor like Amazon or Hulu or Paramount or Netflix would ever in a million years let something like Fritz the Cat see the light of day.
No chance, because there is fucking that happens on camera. All consensual too.
Yes, it is.
One of the first things you see in this movie is like him having a three-way in a bathtub with these college girls he seduced.
Yep.
And then all these different stoners get involved too, and the orgy gets ruined. Fritz gets cucked to his own orgy that he started.
Yep.
And then he fucks Bertha after Bertha gets him high as shit on marijuana. And it looked like it was going to be a bait and switch, because he's saying, "Oh, Fritz, you ain't black enough."
Yep.
I guess he's just some men. It looks like a sewing needle. It looks like a sewing needle, but works like a sewing machine. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I mean and it took some black pussy to get him to realize that he must spearhead the revolution.
Only to immediately start a race riot and get everybody killed, which is once again what's happening in this day and age. Nothing's really changed, now has it?
Yep. Some fucking brilliant idiot thinks themselves some big intellectual, riles up a bunch of people to go do something stupid, and then ducks out when they realize what they've done, and then never pays for anything they've done.
Hassan Piker. We could go on.
Yes. A lot of intellectual agitators, I guess.
And that's not even a leftist thing too, because you have a lot of people in the right wing too that do that.
Yeah, Shapiro does that all the time. That's his whole fucking
Nick Fuentes.
job. Yeah.
Even like some of the no-name guys like Bait Alaska do that shit.
Yeah.
But it's a movie that I feel like it really speaks to somebody, because we both saw this in our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
We both got introduced to this and watched this in our 20s. And really nothing's changed all that much, because we're still people that are in a similar situation to Fritz, where we're still trying to really establish ourselves in a time where it's getting harder and harder to do that given the global economic situation. But it's a movie where if you are a man in your 20s, you're going to find some resonance with this.
Yes. You're going to find something that you can see in yourself in Fritz, even though Fritz himself as a character is not a good person.
No, and he wasn't really supposed to be either.
No, certainly not.
Because he's ultimately just a guy who's out for himself. He just wants sex. That's the character motivation here.
Hey guys,
I just want to fuck.
That's not cool.
And that's it. Where he still has a decent enough heart. I mean, he is a conniver. He will say whatever it takes for him to get in bed with a woman. But if he sees, for example, in the later in the movie, we have a whole like neo-Nazi terrorist plot arc that happens in the movie at the very end, where when they start beating Harriet, he tries to intervene, but doesn't succeed. But the effort still counted.
Yep. And then they blow him up.
Yeah, he gets tricked into doing this power plant thing, and he realizes after planting in the bomb that he doesn't want to do it. But by that point, the fuse is already lit. Too late.
Oh, far out.
And ultimately, did he learn anything from this?
Absolutely
No. I
not.
mean, he says the love you give is the love you get, but you know what? He's still who he is at the end of the day.
And yeah, he's a very static character, even though it looks like he's gonna change. He really doesn't.
You know who he reminds me of? Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Honestly, yes. Like I know you love your little shit.
That is my spirit animal. Yes.
But I do agree with you. There is a lot of DNA in Conker from Fritz the Cat. They've got a lot in common, I think.
If Fritz was British, it would be Conker. Exactly that.
Yeah.
I know they said he's American. He does not sound American. He's British.
I think he was meant to be, but Rare is a British company, so they just they could do whatever.
Something I do like in this movie is that when it comes to acting, this whole Stanislavski naturalist method was how I was trained when it comes to acting. So there's a lot of very natural conversation, because Ralph just went around with a microphone in New York and just left it in bars and let people talk into it. And you have a lot of those conversations in the background of this movie. I mean, it begins with a bunch of construction workers on a beam talking about, like one guy's talking about his daughter living with some guy and how he doesn't like it. And then we go into the scene with the crows in Harlem, and it's this whole conversation they're saying where, oh, these other guys were eating ham sandwiches and turkey sandwiches. I couldn't afford that. I was eating peanut butter sandwiches. And does that conversation go anywhere?
No.
No. But it's there. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, like, for example, the discussion between the three rabbis in the movie is literally just a conversation between Ralph's dad and his two uncles.
Am I saying this right? Yes, good. And what's the next one after that?
Yep.
That entire bit, it's like a whole shit post moment in the movie. It has nothing to do with anything, but I appreciate that stare.
That's just how he did it. It's like he was a guerrilla actor almost.
Mm-hmm.
A guerrilla director.
And now, if there is one issue I have with this movie, it is the pacing. This is a slow movie at times, where you kind of like know what you know what I'm talking about.
I already know exactly what scene you're talking about.
It's this whole scene of "Hush, little baby, don't you cry. I'm gonna get you a pumpkin pie, and if that pie don't," I don't remember how the words of the song go, but it goes on for a whole 2 minutes. And you might be thinking, "Oh, well, it's just a song." No, it is like a whole 12-frame animation loop of a crow snapping his fingers. Well, a scene that's way the fuck off in the distance, like 25 by 25 pixels aspect ratio, slowly zoomed into the frame.
Yep.
Over the course of 2 minutes, where they do the whole fucking song.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that was really just done to stretch it to cinema length.
It is. That's the reason why it's here, because they didn't have enough content to do it otherwise. So you have these long ass transition moments where, if there is a moment where the movie's telling you now is the point to light your next joint and smoke it, it's those periods.
Basically, yeah. Or just take a leak and grab another beer, depending on what.
And same thing goes for most of the orgy scene, where it's just like the sex in the bathtub on the loop, or the scene where Fritz is running and he runs up in the church, or the scene where that building catches fire after Fritz does his speech, or the scene where he gets in the car with Winston and starts traveling to L.A., or the scene with the farmer with the chickens, where he kills the chickens for whatever fucking reason. I don't know what scene was there. That's the time to go ahead and smoke, or just pour your next drink and drink it.
Yep. So, pacing issues a lot in the film, but I still overall really love this movie despite its flaws.
Oh yeah, that's my one issue with it. And sure, it's cheap, but it's the 70s. There wasn't a lot of money in animation during the 70s. I'm surprised this movie got any money at all.
Yep, and it did really well at the box office. I think it actually made like $1 million.
Yeah, this walked so adult animation today can walk. Like it can run. So
we probably would not have Adult Swim if it were not for Fritz the Cat.
That stuff like King of the Hills, Boondocks, Rick and Morty, Smiling Friends, that would not be a thing.
None of that.
None of that. So thank you, Bakshi, for making this movie. But does he really look on this fondly? Not really. He's put a lot of distance between himself and Fritz the Cat ever since. He denies being a furry. He gets really pissed off if you call him one. And there is no relationship or good blood between him and Robert Crumb.
No.
At all. So,
to the point in which, the very next comic that Robert Crumb painted or drew was Fritz being famous after the movie and then him getting killed.
And he has ED in that movie too, in that comic too.
and then Bakshi made a joke about that in Wizards, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to say about Fritz the Cat? Should we move on to the next movie?
I think that about covers it for old Fritz there.
Yeah, Fritz. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about at length because I really fucking love this movie. So I'll go ahead and send you this banner.
Yep.
Get this document prepared. Heavy traffic.
I just watched this today because I've not seen it in years, and I get the hype. I totally get the hype around this movie.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure if it's hype because this is still relatively obscure, but...
It is, but from what you've told me about it, this is just an oddly charming movie. It's oddly beautiful in some way. It's looking
How many times have I watched this? I think I've seen this movie 10 times by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Where Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies ever made. I think I've watched this movie just as much as Blade Runner.
Yep.
And So when it comes to this, the basic plot is that this is the movie that Ralph actually wanted to debut with, but couldn't because nobody knew who the fuck he was. So after he made Fritz the Cat, he finally got to do this. Him being a quote-unquote celebrity after making Fritz the Cat inspired a lot of the writing. He finalized the script of this. The whole framing device for this movie is that it's a who just joined this? You invader, get out of here!
We should probably drop the call limit from 7 to 3 for this one.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, let me see if I can
I saved it already.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah. So with this, the whole framing device is that it's a pinball game. It's a cartoonist who happens to share the same name as the main character from The Godfather, Michael Corleone.
Yep.
Where it's him playing pinball at a arcade.
Yep.
And he's thinking of a story as he's playing the pinball game. Now, what you're seeing doesn't actually happen. This is just what he's imagining, drawn in the cartoon style that this in-universe animator does. And he's thinking about his home life, or his dad is his dad's an Italian Catholic.
Yep.
His mom's a Jew. They hate each other. The dad's cheating on the wife, but doesn't divorce because Catholics don't do that. The Jewish mother blames her husband for everything that's going wrong in her life. The two of them are fighting to the point where they're trying to kill each other. The dad is constantly trying to get Michael to move on and be his idea of what a man is, but Michael just isn't that kind of guy. And he actually wants to get together with this pretty... I'm going to call her what she is. Carol's a pretty toxic friend in this movie. Because
she is.
Yes. The amount of shit that goes wrong, and it's her fault for just about everything. I don't see what Michael sees in her, but he wants her.
Yeah.
And it's just him fantasizing about, okay, what if me and her got together? What happened after that? And that's the entire premise of the movie. Is it a romance? Kind of, sort of. And it's almost postmodern, where these are two people that really shouldn't be together, but they are anyway. One of those kind of romance movies, where it just so happens that Chainsaw Man Part 2 ended, where he was using her for sex, she was using him to fix her self-esteem issues, and the right answer was just see different people.
Yep, basically.
That's a lot of romances these days amongst Gen Z.
Yeah, we're all looking for some sort of validation. We're all looking for some sort of honesty, but we can't find that in other people. That affirmation has to come from within. And in all honesty, between... how the film is framed, it's like as Johnny said, postmodern, a film within a film within a draft of a film. Honestly,
yes,
it goes from it goes from man versus self, and Michael's idea of romance, and how all of his friends act about it, how his parents behave about it, how the people around the city and even Carol herself behaves about it, trying to rope Michael into these schemes where she either goes to dance with people and they're supposed to pay her, but the old dude died, so then they go on to she's gonna hook up with this guy, Michael's gonna go in, beat him up, and take his wallet. And it just keeps getting worse, and that inspires another comic in of itself, because interspersed throughout the movie there are these scenes where Michael, I think right after his parents finish an argument, and Michael's in his room and he's drawing, he's focusing, and you see the camera pan into the board where he's drawing at, and his drawing starts to animate itself frame by frame. And it stopped, and it becomes man versus self into man versus animator, and he's projecting himself again and again to see if he can find the best story to tell within that story. And it's kind of interesting watching him look even deeper inside of himself, look closer and closer into the mirror, until he finally realizes what he's actually looking for. Initially, Carol was sort of like a rock in the film. After his friends tried to hook him up with the chick with the pigtails, and he accidentally pushes her off the roof, and she gets stuck on the wires. Well, she had it coming. And then he meets Carol, who as we said, is a toxic friend, but then eventually sort of becomes hey, there's finally a girl that actually, wants to be around me for all the wrong reasons, but Michael didn't know that at the time. And so
Sure.
he goes from seeing relationships from the view of his parents in the first, flip note animated section of the movie to romance that Carol has shown him around herself and around the other denizens in New York in the second animated film, which was like a flip note chase scene of these two people banging in the car while this other guy is chasing after her, going through a storm.
All set to Chuck Berry's Maybelline.
Yes, during the Maybelline scene. And
Which
so
it got a little graphic in it. I mean, it's pretty sexy sex.
it did get very graphic, but like I feel like that was just him like looking in different.
He's 22 years old. He's a man. He's going to get horny.
Well,
that's what's going to happen.
As somebody on Twitter once said, AI cannot be horny nor spiteful, therefore it cannot create art.
Mm-hmm.
And
because that ChatGPT and Gemini refuses to make this shit. If it did, it'll all be over.
It probably would. But yeah, and then it's interesting. What's the weird thing that I can kind of this is a bit of a leap, but the one thing that I can kind of compare this film to is Trainspotting of all things.
Mm-hmm.
You get like the general narration, the general tone from our main character Michael, or Ewan McGregor's character who he plays in Trainspotting. I haven't watched Trainspotting in a minute. But, you get to watch him in his solitude, him interacting with his friends who are also addicts, him interacting with his parents who have tried and failed to pull him out of, the terror that he's in. And then, you get to watch like the moments of abject despair that he goes through, which reflect in Heavy Traffic, the flip note animated sequences of the movie, where Michael has to look deeper into himself to figure out what he actually wants out of everything that he's doing. And then it resolves itself with not necessarily the right decision, because at the end of the film, he chases down Carol because he realizes, what she means to him, and finds her in the park and starts talking with her again. And next thing you know, they're dancing, because even though they're not good for each other, he still realizes how important it is that they know each other.
That you're somebody.
Yes.
And it's like, I need someone to cling on to that's not in my immediate sector. I think it's you, and I want to try doing something with you, is the idea.
And it's worth
At least that's what I got from it.
Yes.
Because the movie begins with a little poem where Michael repeats what he says. Like, he says a sentence and then immediately repeats it, and then does it all over again. But it gets progressively more bitter because he's talking over different animated scenes of crimes and travesty being performed in the middle of New York, and no one really seems to give a shit. I mean, people get blown up by pipe bombs, people getting pushed off of buildings, where Michael's just in a level of misanthropy, where he's just looking at the world around him, just where he is, and all he's thinking of is, I gotta get the fuck out of this place if it's the last thing I ever do. And you've been there, I've been there multiple times.
Yep.
I mean, there's moments where it just, that nihilism begins to creep up in the back of your mind. I feel like this is more of like a guy thing than anything else.
Yes.
Where you're trying to break into the world, you're 22 years old, you're trying to make a name for yourself, and then you look around and you don't want to be a part of this system. You want it to be a perfect world where you could do what you want to do. In Michael's case, it's the underground cartooning, but nothing around you seems to give you the opportunity. Everything expects you to bend to its will, and you don't want to do that. Now, it's up to you as to whether or not you actually have the talent and the skill to do what you want to do, or you're going to have to cave in, which is what Michael's dad ultimately wants him to do. He tries getting him this modeling job where I'm not even sure what he was supposed to do. He was just in a photo shoot for all these different women in underwear, and then he just quits it. He just says, fuck this shit, goes off to a porn theater where it's just this really weird segment too. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what the theater is. Like, I'm not going to be a one-woman man. I'm never going to be. Like, this is some really weird foreplay we're seeing here.
Yep.
And then ultimately, he ends up with Carol because for whatever reason, he just has the hots for her. She already knows who he is. He lurks around that bar, tries asking for free beers. Carol likes him enough to do it, but not enough to get with him. The only reason why she does get with him is because the bouncer that worked at the bar she just got fired from, Shorty, has a sexual fixation with her, and she needs to get away from him, so Michael's the shield. Unfortunately, in the fantasy, that is this movie that does get Michael killed because Shorty ends up partnering up with Michael's dad. Now, I might be thinking, why is that? It becomes a man-to-man conflict, kind of sort of, just Michael doesn't realize it, where Michael's dad, Angelo, wants to get Michael killed specifically because he's race mixing.
Yes.
We're kind of fucked up, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. It is fucked up because Angelo, for context, he was he's a manager at the Brooklyn docks, and all the union members were going on strike, and the mafia was upset at Angelo because none of their stuff was working. Goes to ask a favor, and nothing.
Smacked
really
around for
comes
doing it. Where it was Ralph Bakshi watched The Godfather and was pissed off about it, saying, "No, there is no honor amongst the mafia. I grew up in New York. I saw how honorable the mafia was." So when Angelo goes and asks for a contract on his son, he gets slapped across the cheek for it, and a couple words that we're not going to repeat in Italian get said to him.
Yep.
And because that's personal, that's not business related. The mafia is not going to do anything out of altruism. If it makes the mafia money, they will do it. But besides that, no. And you get a few things in here too, where it's not just Michael having problems, because you get to see his mother Ida, where she's going through family pictures, thinking about how her and Angelo used to have a happy marriage, how she used to have a nice, loving family, and it all got thrown away because she married the wrong man. That it turns out whatever you saw in Angelo wasn't meant to last, and you should have been with another man, but you've already made your decision that you can no longer get out of. And it's a strong implication that Carol's going through her own shit too, but she doesn't open up about it. Mm-hmm. And a few of Ralph Bakshi's own frustrations are in this movie as well. Because there's a scene where Michael goes to an animator in a hospital who is dying, trying to get a blessing and funding for a project and a gig, and the guy dies, and then that's the last Michael ever tries. We'll find out the hard ways later through this episode that all the old guard members that used to really support these projects and would look at any idea and greenlight it are gone. Now everything is either about money or politics. And this kind of freescape environment and animation, you're never going to see that again. You have to go independent for that now. But the independent scene is very limited because it's all underground. These people don't have as much money as you think. You have to rely on whales for this kind of stuff, and you're going to struggle, which is what ultimately pushes down Michael to pimping out Carol at the dances and eventually just teaming up with this jumping and killing a guy for his wallet scheme. And that's when the movie has Shorty and Angelo kill Michael. And to me, that's saying something. You want to get out of this place if it's the last thing you ever do. But how low are you willing to stoop to get out of it?
Yep.
Are you willing to give up your own morals and principles to get out of the place? Because if so, you deserve to stay there for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And that life is going to be very short if you choose to do that.
Do you really want it to be the last thing you ever do? Because chances are it might.
And that seems to be the only conclusion that Michael comes to, because the fantasy ends with that conclusion.
Yep.
And then that's when he leaves the pinball machine. It goes to live action. He meets up with Carol after she gets fired from the bar, which apparently, if this is a fantasy, he called it like it was. He knew what was going to happen. And then tries and fails to hook up with Carol, goes back to the park, tries again, and then that's how the movie ends. So it's a movie that I see something in where I've been in that place a few times in my life as well, and I might still be in it, but you gotta find happiness where you are. You don't want to get out of hell and go into heaven, because you know what? That gateway to heaven might not ever exist. You probably will never see that. But you can try making the heaven out of the hell that you're currently in.
Exactly.
That's something you could try doing.
You gotta do what you can with what you've got, and you gotta hold on to what you gotta hold on to what you believe in, and you have to believe in yourself when you do the things that you do.
Because does this world ultimately suck? Yeah, it does, but you can try to find somebody to make it worthwhile with.
It doesn't have to suck. You just gotta work at it.
And if I may talk about issues with the movie, there's some sex in this movie, and it's not necessarily consensual, which is why I would say it's a little bit hard to recommend Heavy Traffic to people.
Yes.
Concerning the entire sequence with Rosa.
Yeah, exactly that. And also the scene, what was her name? Angie?
Yeah, well, Oh, you're talking about the mistress he's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she gets pummeled all over the place by Angelo throughout the movie.
Yep.
And anything and everything involving Snowflake.
Yes.
Where Ralph Bakshi was a pretty righteous man when it came to race. Not so much with homosexuality.
No, certainly not.
It like Snowflake could have been completely cut from that movie and nothing would have changed.
Yeah.
And
well, we all got our faults.
So that sentiment would kind of change with this next movie, but yeah, even though that is a thing that hasn't aged very gracefully, I still say, if you really want to check out this movie, I strongly recommend it because this is one of my favorite movies, period.
It is a phenomenal movie, and it has something to say if you're willing to read between the lines and look a little bit deeper. It's kind of obscure, the pacing's a little wonky, but I think there is something greater to this film if you pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Shall we go off into movie number 3?
Yes, movie number 3.
All right, here it is. The one that you've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, the most infamous of the bunch.
Oh boy, oh boy.
We are way out of our lane with this one.
Yep. This movie is radical.
All right. This movie is base as fuck. This walked so Boondocks could run.
Certainly.
I'm pointing off of another man's video saying that, but this movie is base as fuck, and the cast for this movie was fucking incredible. I don't know how you did it. But getting Scatman Crothers as the narrator and getting Barry White to be one of the main cast, oh, holy shit. And this is Philip Michael Thomas's first role, the man that would go off to become Ricardo Tubbs in Miami Vice.
Yep.
Holy fuck, 10 out of 10 casting in this movie.
Yes.
So this was a movie where Ralph actually said, oh, what's your next movie, Ralph, after you make Heavy Traffic? And he says, Uncle Remus, I'm going to make a movie called Harlem Nights. And they got changed to Coonskin after a couple name changes.
Yep.
Basically, what happened is that Ralph, to my understanding of the story, saw Song of the South, and it pissed him the fuck off, so he made this movie.
And yeah, so this is a film made entirely on anger. Just straight down the line. This is him rebelling against the terrible representation of African Americans in media at the time, and also once again against the mafia, actually, and how they treat the people that he grew up with in Harlem.
Is that in case you're wondering, why is this movie drawn like this? Because I've had to explain this multiple times to different people I've talked about this movie with. This is an ironic style. Every character in this movie is drawn like a racial caricature, because this movie is very unapologetic with how it portrays racial issues in America. Specifically, it might be a little lefty, a little liberal to say this, but if you deny that there was racial inequality involved in the building of America, you are ignorant in saying that. There was definitely disparity when it came to races, most prominent of all being amongst white and black people.
Yep.
This is how white people would view most black people in the 1970s, especially after the Civil Rights Movement just ended 10 years ago. And America, sure, you pass the laws, everything is fine legally, but the culture and the wounds are still there, and you have refused to move on from looking at this group of people as this.
Yep, precisely. You can pass as many laws as you want, but until you get people to stop seeing people like that, then you're not going to have any real change in the society.
When it comes to this level of hatred and this level of anger in America, and sure, you can say that, we gotta stop talking about this, we gotta see content of character, not color. Well, also, that's denying the background that somebody has lived and doing so as well. So is there a right answer to this? Well, there might be, but we just haven't found it yet. But this is drawing attention that you're not ready for this kind of racial equality, and this movie's going to call you out for that. Where this goes and it takes the stories of Uncle Remus, specifically Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear, and it adapts it into a black mafia crime drama.
Yes.
Where it's 3 boys from the summer, they call themselves that, even though Preacher Fox is old as fuck in comparison to the other characters. We don't really know how old Rabbit and Bear are supposed to be. I mean, we see them drinking in a bar, but I guess Black Rabbit's 21 at the youngest, I guess.
Well, no, I mean,
But-
in 1975, you could be 18 and buy a drink. They didn't change that law until, I think, 1985, I think.
It could be that. So their house gets sold off to by a pimp. So they go over to the last place for any black man in America to live in, and that being Harlem. And they go in and find out it's not the dream that was played up to be. I mean, there's a lot of racial inequality. It's corrupt as shit. And that this isn't a haven for black people so much as it is an open-air prison.
Mhm.
And Black Rabbit has a plan for that. I'm going to find out what's causing this to be a prison, and I'm going to bust it up. And so he does. And when it came to previous characters, Fritz was a guy who thought with his penis first and foremost, and that was it. And then Michael was a bit of a chud when it came to his character. But Black Rabbit is fucking bad ass. This character is fucking awesome, dude.
He
I
knows
mean,
what the fuck is up. He knows
the
what
level
he's doing.
of blackness he's at, where he's just an out-and-out silhouette, was such a smart stylistic choice to him. But where it's how bad to say this. If you were in a black room, in a dark room, you would not see this man coming and get the drop on you. And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
He was a smooth
Because
operator.
this is an underhanded plotting character who schemes and succeeds in his schemes. This is a trickster by nature.
Yep.
So the character design works.
He is a rabbit, so that makes sense.
And also, I've noticed too, he dresses like Cosmic Kiryu from the Yakuza games. With his suit and
The hot white disco suit, absolutely. You're the
And-
one who brought a gun to a motorcycle fight.
And the whole thing where he calls it like it is, because this movie is political as fuck,
Very.
and it goes in and calls it like it is, where you have a lot of, I'm not going to use the word because I'm white, I can't say it, but a lot of house ones that will want to propagate this victim mentality, saying, oh, we're going to do the revolution anytime, I'm Reverend Savior, I'm the first cousin of Black Jesus, give me your money and I'll eventually solve your problems. Is how the movie starts. That's the first antagonist.
Yep. There's a whole scene of that, and it's kind of interesting, that scene, because he's, spouting his manifesto about, violent
The cop is
revolution
right.
against-
The rent is white. The landlord's white. Your pain is white. But I'm here to liberate you. To deliver you. And then he shoots up pictures of Elvis Presley, Richard Nixon, and John Wayne.
Yep. And what's interesting, and that whole scene, like, there's like filmed picture, there's like films, B-roll of, African Americans in a club all applauding, which, interesting stylistic choice in that. But Ralph Bakshi was always fond of, like, putting in just, like, random guerrilla camera shots in his movies.
Yes.
I suppose
Where-
as a a bit of way to authenticate the movie a little bit, I suppose.
You can say it's cheap, but I like it. Where every background in this movie is a screenshot or a video of real life.
Yes.
Everything in Heavy Traffic is drawn. This is all real, like real places. Like, I mean, it kind of gets hokey with the mafia later on because it's like a subway steel mill combo that they're living in. But I digress. I like it. It's a very stylistic choice where there's a very high contrast where most of the background is black at all times, and the color that is there is very saturated and it stands out. I like the style.
Yes. I feel like that's trying to show, like, the moralist part of, or the moralistic message is that, like, it's a very black and white world to contrast the actions of the people and how they go about doing what they need to do.
It kind of feels like I'm playing Vampire the Masquerade sometimes.
A little bit, yeah.
Because there's a whole whopping one scene that takes place during the day in this movie.
Oh, yeah?
Everything else is at night.
Yes, it kind of is.
And throughout this movie, they kill off the savior, whereas it turns out, it's just like BLM, where it turns out it's a white man scamming you the entire time. They kill Savior. They manage to get his followers on their side. They give him an ultimatum. You gotta kill two people. You gotta kill this corrupt cop Madigan, and you gotta kill off the mafia. You do that, we'll be on your side.
I remember you were watching, or you were having, like, a movie night with the group, and I literally came in at the scene where Madigan was killed.
Mm-hmm. And it's we did a whole commentary track over this too, and it was funny because I told you when I worked at the restaurant, I had my coworker, who was my closing manager, looked exactly like Madigan,
Oh yeah.
and I showed him that. And I said, "Hey, look, man, it's you." And he says, "It looks nothing like me." Okay, maybe it looks a little bit like me. The whole thing with Madigan is that he's a racist Irish cop. I mean, the natural enemy of the Irishman is the black man, of course. And
Somehow.
they have this whole debacle, and he gets cut off in this Rasputin fashion where he's roofied. A gay man fucks him in the ass. He's dressed up. He's put in blackface. He's thrown out in the middle of the street. His two partner cops are dead. He's high on drugs, shooting around, and the entire rest of the NYPD guns him down the street. So most overdone, like, extreme death I've ever seen in an anime movie award goes to you.
That was like the boiling point. That scene was the boiling point of all of Ralph Bakshi's anger and frustration at the NYPD and the corruption that he saw within it in Harlem at the time. Because remember, this movie came out in 1975. New York was a fucking shithole in the 70s, dude. That's when Taxi Driver took place.
And they say, "Oh, we don't have the staff to prosecute a crime that happened to a normal citizen, but the one that happened to a rich person or a corporation, oh, we got staff for that. We have enough staff to litigate over how much a real estate property is worth, but a guy that stabs you to death in the street, sorry, we can't do anything about that, buddy."
Yeah, because there's no money in solving crimes, just like there's no money in curing patients.
You just protect the businesses, and that's it.
Yep.
When you neglect to acknowledge that the citizens of your city are the staff of the business that you're defending, but you refuse to defend the worker. And it's what really irritates me when it comes to that.
And that was the death of Madigan in a scene, was that.
And then we go off into the Mafia, where I'm kind of mixed with how Rudy Giuliani came in to bust up the crime in New York City. Because was the Mafia bad? Of course it was. But it left a power vacuum that's now occupied by a bunch of shitty street gangs that are worse than the Mafia ever was. But, you know, there was still virtue in the act of removing the Mafia itself. I can't get mad about that.
Well, you know Ronnie Reagan to thank for that. You gotta know.
We got the leader of the Mafia, the Godfather, has this melting pizza kind of design to his to him.
He really does. He looks like melted ice cream. And he's got fangs like a vampire. He really is.
Exactly that. Like, he called it like it is. Call it like it is. Like, yes, these are vampires by another name.
He is a Giovanni, actually. So
here, pay us protection money. Their protection is protection from us, so we don't destroy your business and break your legs. Vampirism.
Yep.
By another name.
It is. And I think that's how they were meant to be depicted.
He has a literal clown son, who's the only competent member of the Mafia. Santiago, the most Hispanic-looking Italian man you've ever seen in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then his 4 gay sons, that I don't actually think have names.
I don't think they do, no.
They're all just like cowboys and have dicks as long as their forearms.
Well, they're all, like, very effeminate, like, stripper cowboys, basically.
Because what's the Mafia doing most of the day, right?
The Mafia gay in a very, very
exactly that. It's pretty gay to be a mafioso, you know.
Yep.
There's more homosexual Italians than they want to give admission for.
I mean, they were Roman. Let's be real.
You gotta be a family man, they say, and yet you're all fucking each other after Pastrami Tuesday. They call it like it is. Where is it like gross depictions of is it homophobic? I guess you can say it is that, but. It's called like it is because it's actually there for a reason. Because the Mafia wants to deny that that's there. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. It's unavoidable.
It is.
And this movie's based as fucking honesty. Like, I honestly don't have anything bad to say about it.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal movie. Like,
yeah, the pacing issues that were in Heavy Traffic and Fritz the Cat are gone, completely gone.
This is just
you have little musical moments here. You have like little funny gag transitions. And anything involving Miss America, who's a whole metaphor for black men being lured to their death by a false promise of an American dream.
Yep.
And even at the beginning of end sections, because there's a whole framing device where it's Scatman Crothers telling these kids a story. Not kids. He's telling the real life Black Rabbit who's in prison with him a story while they're waiting to get busted out. Even those segments are pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he does eventually get busted out, and like Heavy Traffic, the film ends with a live action scene of like, you know, them getting busted out of prison, I think by Brother Bear, actually.
Yeah, it's Bear and Fox that bust him out. Then Fox is talking to a kid saying, "Hey, I got this friend. You're going to meet Black Rabbit and Scatman Crothers. You want to meet Scatman Crothers, little girl? I'm sure you do."
Yep.
I want to meet Scatman Crothers. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I get to see him. I don't have any real criticisms for this movie. I love it.
This is a phenomenal film. Highly recommend it.
There's one moment in here that you got to be prepared for. It's when Fox sets up a whole racket where he'll legally marry a man and a woman together as a prostitution ring and then divorce you afterwards, so it's not prostitution. When Bear goes to visit him, it's like tiny gremlin of a woman comes in, kicks him in, they strip Bear down, and then she grabs him by his penis and drags him to the podium. Ugh!
Yeah, that's a little
Oh, I
rough.
hate that.
That was Pearl, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, the cock and ball torture was too real.
Yeah.
But there we go. That's your criticism. Besides that, close to perfect movie.
Yep. Phenomenal.
I say it with no hint of irony whatsoever, because I'm not being ironic at all. What's next? Is it Hey Good Lookin? No, it was going to be next, but thanks to Al Sharpton, it should have been you, Al. It shouldn't have been MLK. It shouldn't have been Malcolm X. It should have been you. But, you know, life's unfair. You survived and they died.
Yep.
So, thanks to your actions, you motherfucker, Hey Good Lookin got put off indefinitely. It would eventually come out, but not anytime soon.
Yep.
And instead we got sidelined, but thankfully it led to Ralph listen to a criticism that was kind of valid. Can this man make a movie that does not take place in New York?
And the answer is yes.
And it comes in the form of wizards.
Spectacular fashion, matter of fact.
Here we go. So this is a movie that left me starving for more, and it is very clear that this movie was rushed, that it was on a very tight budget, that it needed to get out the door ASAP, and I wish it could have been given more time, but I'm happy it got made at all.
Mm-hmm.
This was originally called War Wizards, but George Lucas, who is a friend of Ralph, actually said, George, no, I'm George. Ralph, I have a movie coming out called Star Wars. Can you not put war in the name of your movie so people don't think we're related in movies at all?
I mean, sure, if you ask nicely, I may as well,
I
yeah.
don't want people thinking Han Solo's a wizard.
I mean, there's any kind of, you know, he's a wizard with that gun of his, and, you know, my movie's got a wizard with a gun.
I don't like that he shot first. I think it's too mean. I'm going to take it out.
No, I think you should have let him shoot first. You know, he's supposed to be a bounty hunter.
It's my movie, so I get to add them as much as I want.
Why would you release different versions of the film? Just make a perfect film and be done with it.
So he makes this, and then essentially this is Ralph's idea of a family picture. This is my first movie. It's a family picture. You know, it's got a fairy in a Vegas stripper outfit,
Yep.
Nazi imagery everywhere in the movie, blood and gore happening throughout it. I suppose Jewish children are just built different.
Yeah,
they can take seeing that kind of stuff.
I mean, hey, look, the movies that we watched growing up was like The Prince of Egypt.
Deliver us! Oh,
We were actually
God,
watching that
deliver.
last night with my cousins for after Passover dinner.
And it's a beautiful movie, all
It
said
is
and
a
done.
gorgeous film. Absolutely love it.
And looking at what we've got for Wizards, this is a movie that once again is political. The politics behind Wizards is about propaganda. There is a weapon that is made to demoralize those that are the target of it, and to embolden those who are supposed to be the straw man, perfecto, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that's being promoted in the propaganda.
Yes.
Essentially, a tool that is made for fascism, communism, or whatever kind of authoritarian regime you want, is made to create a them versus us scenario. is ultimately harmful, and there's no way to really get around it. It's just made to destroy.
Yep. It's interesting, like the fact that Black Wolf, using the Nazi imagery, actual World War II propaganda from the Germans, in order to raise his army of mutants and evil creatures. And it's kind of interesting that whole, like, you know, you see them, the joy and all, like the soldiers all dressed up with their rifles and the gas masks for face, jumping and cheering alongside all of the mutants, you know, dancing around as the film plays in the background with Triumph of the Will and all that. And it's interesting that they're the ones emboldened by the propaganda, because, you know,
these would be the people that would be put to the sword.
Kind of people who would enjoy that kind of propaganda, who would buy into it because they look at that and think that could be us, that is us. And it's great how he frames that. It's really spectacular.
In a world that's 2 million years after the world ends through nuclear Armageddon, and we mutate to have the orcs that inhabit a land called Scorch, and then the fairies that live in Arcadia, and elves as well. Where it's a fantasy that takes place in our world after our time, 2 million AD. As for how the fuck a World War II propaganda reel survived that long, I don't know. It's Ragnarok approved.
Magic.
And we have a whole thing where it's good versus evil. We have a good wizard Avatar, who's this little gnome with a big orange beard, who's more interested in smoking and sexy women than he is in really saving the world. And Black Wolf, a man that has no skin on his forearms and no hair on his head, all the hair on his face, who just wants to destroy everything he loves. And that's the whole premise behind that. We're simple names, am I right? And then you have Weehawk, who's this little elf partner that he travels with. You have Eleanor, who's this fairy that has a crush on, that he bangs at the end of the movie. And then you have Necron 99, who gets renamed to Peace, who is a robot assassin made by Black Wolf, who kills just about every political leader on the fairy side at the beginning of the movie, only for Avatar to finally catch him after he kills the last president, reprograms him, and makes him this guy who's finding off constant psychic signals that are like of Black Wolf trying to recontrol him, that play off as a plot point later. But there's also a second moral behind this movie too, because Avatar is a self-professed pacifist. He only gets in one fight in this movie, and that's it. And that's at the very end.
Yep.
And it's about pacifism, where it's good that you want to be a pacifist. It's good that you denounce violence. But if you're peaceful, but you're incapable of violence, you're not actually peaceful. You're harmless.
Yes.
If you want to preserve the peace that you love, you need to be capable of great violence and defending yourself. If you can't do that, then people that you cannot reason with, that just hate you, will come in and will take everything away from you.
Exactly.
You need to be capable of that kind of violence when that moment happens. And nobody wants to encounter it, but you're going to have to because of the world that we live in.
It is the biblical definition of meekness made manifest in this film. While Avatar is a peaceful individual, he is indeed meek. With his magic, he is capable of, say, turning Necron 99 from a robot assassin into a protector, all of Terminator 2. And also, you know, at the end of the film as well, and the traveling companions that he's with being able to, you know, escape danger and make their way to the land of Scorch to fight Black Wolf and destroy the real. You know, all of that takes an immense amount of bravery and willingness to stand up for what you believe in. And I really think that is part of the core of this film, is standing up for what you believe in the face of indescribable evil.
And there will be a cost to it as well, because Avatar is almost a completely broken man by the end of the movie, because Necron 99 dies. Eleanor seemingly turns traitor after Black Wolf realizes, instead of trying to possess Necron, I'll just possess Eleanor, which succeeds. And he thinks that Weehawk is just going into this fight to die, and that Avatar just walks over to Black Wolf. Instead of this big magic duel at the very end, Avatar just pulls out a gun and just shoots him.
That is honestly perhaps one of the best scenes in the movie. And honestly, That scene is just so perfect for everything in this movie. Not only in just like a comedic and dramatic sense, but also in just like a motif sense. Because, you know, as we're talking about the whole idea of meekness, standing up for what you believe in, sometimes great evil must be destroyed by less savory means. It wasn't magic. It wasn't that fairy magic that they were fighting to defend that killed Black Wolf. It was just pure, unadulterated power and hatred for those who are hateful that leads to Avatar to kill Black Wolf.
And he tries to do the right thing. He goes over to these people in Scorch and says, hey, why can't you just do this? Here's some flowers. Here's love. Why can't you just be a loving person? And they just reject it.
No, because their minds have already been poisoned by thoughts of authoritarian grandeur. But just
racism, tribalism, whatever you want to call it. It's already there.
But still, that ending of the film where he shoots Black Wolf, it always reminds me of that classic meme of the more ridiculous a show's magical power scaling is, the more hilarious it is when somebody pulls out a gun. And of course, Avatar, one of the most powerful magicians in the world, pulls out a gun and shoots Black Wolf in the chest.
And then, as it turns out, Eleanor is actually not possessed. Weehawk forgives her. Avatar realizes there's something to continue to live for, and Eleanor breaks down that nihilism. He was about to go down because he was about to just wait for the building to collapse on him after he shot Black Wolf. And then at the end of the movie, he says, "Oh, he's going to go off and create another kingdom with Eleanor." This little dragon goblin thing that was Black Wolf's partner gets caught by Weehawk. Avatar tells him just let him go. Because the propaganda is gone, Black Wolf is gone, your fascist leader is gone. And it's clear this guy was just a follower looking for something to cling to. So the hateful thing in his life is gone, give him the opportunity to pull it around. Where I feel like there's a lot of people in this day and age. It's bad for me to say this, but if they were to just go away, we'd immediately see the world become a better place.
There's about 1,000 of them. Yes.
We have a lot of false messiahs and false leaders that are leading a lot of lost boys down the wrong path.
There certainly are, and I feel like the themes of this film ring true nowadays more than ever.
There are some issues with Wizards, though, because it's very clear this movie had a lot of budget and a lot of time issues. Because there's a lot of moments in this movie where the animation just stops, and it's just an image of, well, it's like a storybook that you would see, kind of like if Lord of the Rings had an illustration, and it just pans around on that, and there's no real animation that takes place. Or scenes will just suddenly smash into each other, like the scene where Eleanor gets possessed after Necron falls asleep and this evil cloud comes out of him. There's no animation for the cloud monster coming out. It just happens. We hear a scream, Avatar and Weehawk run into the scene, and all of a sudden there's this big damn cloud monster. Where the fuck did you come from? And that's the thing, we don't know. Stuff just kind of happens. This is not a movie you can have your phone out for. Because there's a lot of shit that will just happen. A lot of scenes will just smash into each other with no real transition between the two.
Yes.
It feels like you've accidentally hit the skip button, but you didn't. And that's just because of the limitations that went into Wizards.
It also doesn't help that 20th Century Fox kind of fucked Bakshi over.
Because they wanted to put more money into Star Wars. So granted, financially that was a smart decision, but I wish we were in a world where Wizards could have been the trilogy it was planned out to be.
I think it feels like they're something incredible.
He was cooking with this.
He was. What's funny is that it's kind of hilarious that this came out 2 films after Heavy Traffic. Because is this not exactly what the this was exactly the comic that Michael was talking about in the end of Heavy Traffic, or near the end of Heavy Traffic?
Well, where he tries to pitch it to the executive, where it's the trash monster leading everybody astray. Yeah, of some ideas that were in that got metamorphed into Wizards.
It certainly
and
feels
here we are.
like it, and it just kind of goes to show that a lot of this is a reflection of Bakshi's life and Bakshi's thought process in general.
This kind of feels like your average D&D campaign, but not average D&D campaign, given that fucking freak shit has ruined that game. what your D&D games used to look like back in 2014.
Well, I don't even say back in 2014. I would say this is like a Sandy Peterson level of D&D campaign.
Mm-hmm. Where if somebody was to make a D&D setting of this world, I feel like it would. I feel like it could.
I think it'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Too bad I don't want to touch the D20s anymore. But besides some really jarring pacing issues, I think this is pretty good.
Yes, Ralph Bakshi's Wizards is just a cool movie.
And I really do wish I could see something more of this. I think, like, 2008, a company announced that they were making a sequel to this, and it just never happened.
Yeah.
So, thankfully, we can still use Sora AI until September.
I refuse to use the godless machine. I will let it die a slow and cold, lifeless, soulless death that it deserves.
The Will Stancil show only has so much more time left to make new episodes.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to say about Wizards?
I just think that this is one of the most slept on settings in all of the realm of fantasy.
Because one of our subscribers and one of our co-hosts, Dan, loves this movie.
Yes.
This is the one that he loves the most.
But the swords but the black powder and magic, I think, is slept on. Like, having laser rifles exist alongside magical spells, there needs to be more of that. Like, more of like a Ray Punk, Flash Gordon kind of vibe to sci-fi.
Like high fantasy Dungeon Punk versus Diesel Punk.
Exactly. Something like that, where it's like, where you can have, a triangle hat wizard with a wand casting spells alongside a robot with the laser cannon. I think you should be able to do that. It's magic, Put a lightning stone inside the chest of a suit of armor, and let him channel that through a hole in his hand gauntlet. I mean, you have medieval Iron Man just like that.
Yeah, if I could do it. There's also the Fritz joke in this as well, where
where one soldier is shot and killed, and the other one starts yelling, "He killed Fritz! Those bastards!"
I am actually okay. and then he gets up just to shoot him again.
Yep.
And he blames the fairies for it again. Let's do it. Next one. Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Lord of the fucking Rings. Here we go. Oh, yeah. This movie was awesome.
Which is sad, because this is one of the ones I actually have not seen.
Oh, it's hard to track this down, too, because YouTube will immediately take this down. This cannot be pirated whatsoever.
Yep. It's intellectual property of Tolkien. It's impossible to do that now.
So I had to go to a rental store that still exists in 2026, and I rented a copy of this. I had the DVD in my hand, put this in my PS3, and then watched the whole thing begin to end. And I am telling you, this, like, the Peter Jackson movies are fucking awesome. And I know there's a whole retrospective episode that was made about this movie, in particular this production, where the Peter Jackson movie looms large over this.
Mm-hmm.
And because of just how many people got introduced to Lord of the Rings because of the Peter Jackson movie. But this is probably the best adaptation period. Like, the vibe of Lord of the Rings is best explored in this movie. Where just about everything from the way that Frodo looks, the way that he acts. Like, Elijah Wood never really came across as that heroic as Frodo to me, but this version of Frodo in this movie is almost perfect. And same with Gandalf, having this whole kind of, like, Gandalf is of course the guy that you want to go on an adventure with, because he's in control of any sort of situation he's in, and you feel that with this character too. And Aragorn, the most Native American looking prince you've ever seen in your life, the way that he's drawn this movie, is such a solid character. There's one moment in this where it's the scene where they meet him in the Prancing Pony, where he says something along the lines of, "If I could have the ring, I would have taken it." And you believe him when he says that, with the level of conviction in his voice.
Like, the voice acting is just genuinely phenomenal in this film.
Oh yeah, the casting in this production of Lord of the Rings is fucking fantastic. It is such solid voice work. And this entire movie, by the way, rotoscoped.
Yep.
Every little bit of it is rotoscoped.
A lot of the scenes, funny footnote about this film is that a lot of the scenes were shot in Spain due to some of the variety of the landscapes. But due to some very, very strict rules set by the Spanish Filmmakers Union, is that almost half of all the film that they made for this was destroyed because, they would shoot while there was light posts and road fixtures in the frame because the Spanish film crews and the Spanish actors were unaware that the film was supposed to be rotoscoped. So they lost like half of the film.
And along with that too, where some of these had to be filmed while, I guess it's technically illegal. Like some of these guys were on lunch break too, where they were ready to do a whole scene of a battle with the orcs. Then he shot lunch break, and then Ralph just says keep the cameras rolling, and so that's why some of the scenes you see orcs with fucking sandwiches in their hands. But I got the voice actor for.
That goes back to Ralph Bakshi's sort of guerrilla style of filmmaking.
And I love it because the orcs have this whole like black silhouette when they move in this, and they feel otherworldly. They feel like an army that's forged in evil. Every time you see them, you can never make out their faces, and it looks so sinister whenever they pop up on screen. They don't look like green Mongol people in this movie. They look like just evil.
Yep. They look like shadows of the land.
And here it is. I got Aragorn's voice actor. John Hurt does the voice work for Aragorn in this movie, and he is the best part of it. Everything involving this iteration of Aragorn, I love it. I love it. I love every bit of it.
Yeah. He was, oddly, I'm just looking this up because I knew I've seen John Hurt before, and I'm seeing now that he played the War Doctor in Doctor Who.
Ooh.
He was also in Plague Dogs, it turns out. Look at that. This guy's got quite an illustrious career, I gotta say.
Also, the guy that voiced C-3PO was also Legolas in this movie.
That's something.
You can't tell. You can't tell.
Oh, wait, John Hurt. Oh, he was Winston in 1984. Look at that. Yeah, so this guy's been around.
He's got... This is all... I'm telling you, stellar casting.
Yes, phenomenal.
And when it comes to this, Ralph Bakshi wanted to do the whole damn Lord of the Rings trilogy, but that's impossible. No.
Certainly not.
That's going to be a movie that's as long as Lawrence of Arabia in length.
They also, I think they also wanted to get Led Zeppelin to write the score for the movie, but
because they wrote songs about Lord of the Rings. That's
exactly. Why. They wrote several songs about Lord of the Rings.
That would have been Kino if that was. It
would have been awesome. Quite literally, there's an edit on YouTube of Ramble On interlaid over scenes from the film, and I go back and watch it every now and again because it just fits so well.
It hits well.
It carries the exact emotion that you want in an epic high fantasy adventure like this.
And all those scenes that the Peter Jackson movies tend to do better. The entire Helm's Deep scene I'd say was better in Peter Jackson movies. The scene with the Balrog was better in the Peter Jackson movies. The scene with Saruman turning evil was better in the Peter Jackson movies. The last March of the Ents, holy fuck, in the Peter Jackson movies was awesome.
Yes.
But this is still worth checking out. If you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings, this is worth checking out. And even just for the animation in it too, for historical purposes, I recommend checking this out.
Yes, even though I think pretty much everybody on the planet has seen Lord of the Rings at least once, if you want just an audiovisual treat with some stellar acting, watch this iteration of Lord of the Rings if you can track down a copy.
If you can track down, if you have a LaVille rental store that's still open within your city.
Yes, absolutely find this.
Let's see here. That song might be a little bit loud, but I'll go ahead and get this ready. Do you have anything else to say about Lord of the Rings? No, because you didn't.
No, I did not, but I still could contribute. So there we go.
I feel like this movie's been taught to death a lot too. I'm not going to say too much more about it.
It's hard not to. It's friggin' Lord of the Rings.
So let's go ahead. Let's go into American Pop.
Again, regrettably, and I really should have watched this instead of Hey Good Lookin', but
where this movie is incredible. If I'm to give any of Ralph Bakshi's movies a 10 out of 10 score, it's this one. When it comes to just about everything, it's a story of four men,
musicians.
Yeah, over the course of 4 different periods of what could be considered American pop music, aka popular in the zeitgeist music.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with Zalmay, who's a refugee coming from Jewish Russia after I forgot what the fuck the historical event was called.
The after the Russian Civil War or
Yeah,
the
that.
yeah.
Um, and then his mom dies in a shirtwaist fire in New York. He gets abducted by the mafia, basically, and becomes a crier for them. Gets involved in their show business after he gets inspired at the clubs, and his career is cut short because he didn't want to do the right thing of singing and dancing for a bunch of boys at war, only to get shot in the throat for his troubles,
Yep.
which completely shreds his singing career. He becomes a comic instead, but doesn't do too well. He marries a stripper, tries going to making her a star, gets her pregnant instead, and their son becomes a prodigy instead. And you can tell that this man, Ralph, actually fucking hates the mafia because they screw Zombie over multiple times throughout this entire movie too. Because his wife dies to a mail bomb that was supposed to be for Zombie, and then later in the movie he goes to prison. He gets completely screwed over by them and is killed off screen after he snitches on television. But his son Benny is a absolute prodigy on the jazz piano, but he's just unhappy with the way life is. He just feels like he's too good for the environment around him. So he breaks away from music, goes and enlists in the war. Turns out to be a big fucking mistake because he's immediately gunned down within his first battle. After playing piano for a Nazi.
I did see that scene, which that is a really touching scene, where it's
like going into it, like for those who haven't seen it, Benny, idiot that he is, goes into a bombed out building,
house.
And there's one piano that's perfectly preserved there. Having not been able to play a piano for I don't know how long, he goes over, puts the gun down, starts playing it. He ends up getting the attention of a German soldier whose arm is broken, who walks over to him, gun raised. He makes a noise, gets Benny's attention, and then Benny just turns around, keeps playing the song, and then right before it hits the refrain, he stops. The soldier thanks him and then shoots him. And
it is a very sad scene. That
I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's Lily Marie. I think the song is called.
Yes, Lily Marlene. I'm seeing.
Yes. It's funny that he ends right before the declaration of love would come up in the German lyrics, because Benny knows what's going to happen. He just has this look in his eye where he's not going to try to run. He's not going to try to go for the gun. He's just going to finish the song because he knows that that's the only thing he can do as a complete action.
He's physically, he's literally, and he's literally and metaphorically playing himself out, basically.
And it's the only way he could go out too, because this is a guy who was never going to be satisfied with anything.
No, and he went out with one thank you, and then getting riddled with bullets.
Just for that scene alone, that's worth checking out. But for the most part, the character who might as well be the movie's main character isn't Pete, who's on the cover. No, it's Tony. And you have to like Tony if you're going to like this movie, because Tony is a very angry firebrand throughout the entire movie. He is Benny's son, grew up without knowing his father, was raised by the mafia in a sheltered home that he didn't ask for, and sick of his life being put on rails, he throws it all away, hitchhikes to Kansas, hitchhikes again to California, and just through sheer circumstance happens to find a bunch of hippies, one of them being Frankie Hart, a very clear parallel to Janis Joplin, and ends up starting a band where they become this story's version of Jefferson Airplane. That's what happens. And everything's going great with them. He doesn't know a damn thing about music itself, but he writes the lyrics for all their songs. And he ends up hurting himself in the middle of a concert after doing drugs, gets addicted to painkillers, gets addicted to heroin, and that ends up ruining his life. But as it turns out, Frankie's addicted as well. They do heroin together. It ends up stopping Frankie's heart, and then it just completely ruins Tony as a man. He never gets over it. But as it turns out, we're not done with you yet, Tony. Because remember that trip to Kansas you did? You fucked a waitress there, and now her illegitimate child is coming to find you, which is Pete. Where these are the only two people, like, you see Zalmy and Benny interact, but it's only for like one or two scenes. Pete and Tony spend a decent amount of this movie together. And you really do see this father-son relationship where Tony knows who Pete is, but doesn't want to admit that he's the father. But Pete already knows this, and that's why he's hanging around Tony all this time. And you see, kind of like Generation X, where we were talking before, that really was the generation that raised itself, where Tony's all strung out, depressed, addicted to drugs, he just wants to die. But meanwhile, Pete's trying to get him to write songs, basically being the provider for the family, because he ends up ghostwriting just about every song Tony makes after that point.
Yep.
And he's the one that defends Tony when they're sleeping, because there's a guy who tries robbing them while they're asleep. And Pete just responds by not even moving his head. He just pulls a switchblade out of his coat and just aims at the guy. And the guy just walks away. 11 years old pulling that shit.
Hey, man, a kid knows what's up.
And then the other really beautiful scene in this movie is the last conversation that Pete and Tony have, where Pete's trying to say, "Hey, I'm trying to play this guitar right, but I don't know. Maybe you can show me something." Tony's just going, "Go back to Kansas, kid. Give me your guitar. I'm going to pawn it." And he says, "No. Well, you don't trust me? No. Well, okay, why don't you stay with me?" And Pete says, "Well, why the hell do you think?" And then Tony realizes that, this lie that he thought he was telling the entire time, it's up. Like, he knows that he's the father. But Pete's known the entire time. And that's when Tony's finally confronted with his own mistakes, too, where you've been holding this kid back this entire time, and you look on his face and he realizes this in that moment. So he takes the guitar, gives Peter a harmonica, tells him to wait there, leaves him for the last time, and then we never see Tony again. And it's just this last goodbye between father and son where we can tell what Tony's thinking the entire scene. Pete doesn't know. And then last thing Pete hears from his dad is that he gave him a bunch of cocaine, not for him to use, but for him to sell. And then for the next 3 years of his life, Pete becomes a drug dealer, trying to get out of dealing drugs, until one of his clients happens to be a record label. He goes in, tells them he's done selling them cocaine unless they hear one of his songs. He performs it. It happens to be Bob Seger's Night Moves, this fantastic piano rendition that I wish Bob Seger released, because I actually prefer that version of Night Moves over the one that you hear on the radio.
I kind of want to go back and listen to that now, because I love that song and I love Bob Seger. Matter of fact, I think I have Night Moves on vinyl, and I love listening to
it's just the first verse that you hear in the piano version, but damn it, that should have been the live version that you recorded.
Yeah.
It should have been that.
Definitely.
And
I will say, though, like, what I have seen of the film, this, I think, stylistically is one of the best animated films that Ralph Bakshi has done.
It's all rotoscoped, and it's for a reason, because it feels like he finally perfected the rotoscoping here.
He really
because the expressions in Lord of the Rings were a little bit cartoony, but in this one, the way that the actors did their face acting in this really paid off, because every single sketch counts, especially when it comes to Tony's actor. Any and all things involving Tony in this movie.
But not even that. It's also like there's some really interesting scenes in the film where it's just stylistically really flashy, despite the very outwardly realistic rotoscoping that occurs. There's this whole scene where I think it was like Pete dancing between the crowds, jumping over from person to person, slapping an 8-ball in this guy's hand, slapping an 8-ball in this guy's hand.
It's a pretty vacant back to Sex Pistols.
Yeah, that scene right there, I think is fantastic.
Along with like, "Don't You Want Somebody to Love" by a Jefferson Airplane, an entire section where I fucking hate the song "California Dreamin'" by the Mamas and the Papas, but the scene involving it was pretty cool.
If you hate that version of the song, listen to the Jose Feliciano version.
I gotta check that one out. Jimi Hendrix's "Purple Haze" comes into this, and it's fucking awesome in the scene it's in. And then even the earlier parts, like the whole gangland sequence where it's piano with a bunch of mafia shit happening on screen, where just about every scene in this is memorable. There's not a single forgettable moment. There's no moment of this movie I'd say skip. Everything in this is worth checking out.
And this is probably what I'm going to watch next.
Even down to the background characters, like Tony's siblings, the last conversation he has with them where he goes off on them, and even down to Benny, who's Zalmi's handler. The relationship that Zalmi and Benny have in this movie, it's short, but there's this one conversation they have where, like, Benny says, I keep getting younger and you keep getting older on me, Zombie. And then Zombie says, well, what's going to happen when I get too old? And then Benny says, well, you're going to start calling me kid. And it's this little joke that they have where you can tell from the way they're talking and the way that body language is in the scene that these are two people that have known each other for a while. And you feel it in that moment.
Yep.
So this is an incredible movie. I would strongly recommend seeking this out. Like, no matter who the fuck you are, this is a film for everybody. This is the family picture right here.
Yep. It's got some heavy themes and some heavy source material, but it's got such a great flashiness about it that you can't help but love.
And now we start doing the nosedive because we are now having to talk about, hey, Good Lookin.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sold on this one, I gotta be honest.
And for a good reason. Let's go ahead. Let's get that banner up.
I should have watched American Pop instead of this.
You watch this. This movie grinds my gears. Is it like for everything in this? Like, Ralph always makes a point, like a political point or a social point in every movie that he makes. Mm-hmm. And for the life of me, like, why did you make this? What's the point of you making this?
I think I have it. While thematically, it's got a lot in common with, honestly, Warriors of all things. You know, themes of urban decay. It's still got some of that, you know, undertone of how corrupt cops perpetrate and propagate all the racism that goes on in New York. You know, the conflict between, between the Stompers and the it starts with a C. I forget.
The Black Chaplains.
The Chaplains. That's it. But I think all of it comes down to Vinny as a character. Mm-hmm. And Vinny reminds me a lot of Joker from Full Metal Jacket, of all things. Mm-hmm. Somebody who talks the talk, but does not walk the walk. And you see
He's somebody who's fundamentally full of shit at the end of the day.
Exactly. And Shapiro is kind of a mix between, is actually more so like Animal Mother rather than Cowboy.
Out of all animated sequences I've seen, this is the worst best friend character I've ever seen.
He is.
Everything. Crazy Shapiro is one of those guys where if you know somebody like him, you gotta cut that man out of your day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just when it comes to the shit this guy does, where not only is this guy like a racist murderer, but a rapist as well, and the film never punishes for this for anything he does until the very end. We're just, oh my god, I hate this guy.
But that's the whole point. It's like, it's not supposed. Ralph Bakshi is showing us that these aren't good people. There's nothing aspirational about it. Yeah, I mean, Vinny dresses how he's supposed to, tries to show, Crazy Shapiro how to dress as well, even though Shapiro's very much got, like, he's very much the quirky Jew kind of stereotype.
The guy who rolled a 1 on his appearance score.
What's the name of the the Jewish actor who is in a lot of like comedy films that Sean was,
Woody Allen.
Yeah, very much like a Woody Allen, quirky Jewish kind of character, but with like an undertone of just psychosis about him.
Because this guy, he's not called crazy for nothing.
Exactly. But the thing is, remember at like the very end of Full Metal Jacket, after Joker and the rest of the squad sneak up on the sniper, and Joker's so scared about being shot that he drops his gun, and the blonde-haired dude shoots her instead, and they're all standing around her as she's pleading for them to kill him. And how I described it to a friend of mine was, Joker's standing there with the gun in his hand as they're all like trying to edge Joker on to do it, like a bunch of kids trying to tell the new kid to like squash a bug or kill a rabbit or something, and they're like, go on, do it. And that's honestly, I see a lot of that in Vinny, because Vinny, he looks the part. He's got the slick back hair, he's got the nice dress, he talks the talk, he gets with the women. But when it actually comes to like being a part of the Stompers, he couldn't be anything. He couldn't be any less like them.
This man who looks like an actual chimpanzee with the way he's drawn.
Exactly, but he does have like the real like broad shoulder look kind of thing, like Doctor Livesey and the Russian
heaviest
Treasure
lips in the
Island.
world are already at the bottom of his chin.
Yeah, but I think that's what this film is really trying to say. And it's granted, it's not the strongest Bakshi film, but I do think it has something to suggest about, the kind of people that would hang around in gangs, and the people who propagate this senseless, tribal gang violence. Is that at the end of the day, they're all crazy, ridiculously stupid, or scared shitless.
Throughout this movie, this was supposed to be released right after Coonskin came out. But due to Al Shelton and his bullshit, this got delayed indefinitely. It was supposed to be what Roger Rabbit is today. This was supposed to be the first movie that did live action and animation side by side. But we didn't know what the fuck that was supposed to look like back in the 70s, now did we? So, Ralph Bakshi self-financed this through money that he got through Wizards. And over time realized that he just had to cut out the live action entirely, because he just could not get this to work no matter how hard he tried. And it's a miracle that Roger Rabbit got made at all, in respect. But what happens is, throughout this movie, it's Vinny and Crazy, who are just two assholes that run a street gang in the 1950s, where an old high school sweetheart, Rosie Federscheid, ends up right back in Vinny's arms. She doesn't want to get with him, but Vinny wants to get with her. He puts the moves on her. Rosie falls in love with him. And then it's a love story that, once again, is postmodern in nature, because they don't really get together at the end now, do they?
No.
Because she realizes that he's a poser. He dips on her when chips are down. Crazy gets with her, namely just to spite Vinny, one of his many asshole antics that he does. And throughout this movie, none of the gang members are actually friends with each other. You're just part of a clique, just for strength in numbers and clout. You're all posers at the end of the day.
Exactly.
You're all in this made up race war where there's no real beef between each other. There's no real feud to be had between the Stompers and the Black Chaplains. They just start it for the sake of starting it, and it's the Stompers who fucking instigate it, and then Crazy, who takes it to the point of no return by killing two of them.
Exactly. And honestly, there's a little bit of quadrophenia in this as well. Like the whole mods versus rockers thing. Where are they all really friends, or it's just people trying to be somebody in a world where they're all just nobodies?
As it turns out, you're all just a bunch of assholes that had nothing better to do with your time.
At the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of fucking posers.
But it feels like this was made because there was a lot of 1950s nostalgia that was going on around this time. And that it feels like this movie was made just to disillusion that nostalgia by, hey, remember the 1950s? It wasn't good at all. It actually sucked. And this is a movie about how much the 1950s sucked. And, all right, cool, Ralph. You made that movie. Okay, is there anything pleasant in this movie? No. It
does feel a very spiteful film, doesn't it?
There's just moments in this where it's just ugly for the sake of being ugly. It's just stop having fun is what the movie feels like it's saying about the 1950s, and I just can't co-sign that. It just comes across as a very unpleasant movie to watch, where Vinny's a dick, Rosie's a dick, Crazy's the fucking worst. There's no redeemable characters in this movie, and it ends with Vinny and Rosie in their 40s, where I guess Vinny's like this sleazy homeless man, Rosie aged before her time, and Rosie says, "Oh, you get to fuck me, Vinny, if you go and you fight my husband, who's going to find me drinking here with you." And then Vinny just agrees to doing it, and then the movie just ends there.
Yep.
So,
Nobody's
once again,
learned
you
their
two were
lesson.
fucking terrible for each other. You should have never gotten together, but you're getting together anyway.
No
then-
lessons were learned.
Where it's ultimately just two guys where it feels like the inverse of what Fritz the Cat was, because was Fritz ever going to change as a person? No, but he wasn't going to make those same mistakes again. Did Vinny change as a person? No, and he's still doing the same shit that got him in this position, where he's like fucking hobo in a trench coat behind his face, looks like a fucking meth addict with his latest design, and that he's just going to bring Rosie down with him all over again. And then, was anything accomplished in this? No.
No, pretty much. But I don't know.
I know, like,
Go
you
ahead.
don't necessarily need to have a satisfying ending to stuff if the themes are there or the character was just that interesting, but it just wasn't there with Hey Good Lookin'.
Yep. So here's the interesting thing. I gave you a lot of shit about the game Catherine, and I didn't like the fact that nobody could keep it real. In a way, I kind of see an odd parallel, which makes me wonder, why do I like this better than Catherine?
It's because, well, in Catherine, you didn't finish the story either because Vincent eventually realizes that he made a mistake and that he needs to nut up.
Yeah.
Because Catherine's a story that's made about growing to be a man who deserves to be loved, rather than the love story itself. But
I suppose, yeah.
But with this, I think it's like it might be the flavoring for you because I know you love this kind of biker aesthetic.
I do have a soft spot for mod rocker brawls. Yeah, that could be some of it, but like, I think a part of me likes the fact that Vinny is secretly a coward, and
where
just
this character
refuses-
slowly be like having his walls chipped away, and he's revealed to be a bitch at the end of the movie.
Exactly, and like I feel like he realizes that in a much more believable way, where he starts the movie with him being super competent, with being super confident in who he is and what he's about, and watching things just slowly get further and further out of his control. It feels a bit more organic, that progression from on top of shit to I should not be here and I've made a terrible mistake.
The facade being chipped away is what sells you on this.
I think that's what does it for me on this one.
I streamed this in the server once upon a time, and it was named as like a hate watch where I was pausing the movie, I was like breaking down every scene as we were going along. You remember I made that profile picture of Vinny with his eyes bugging out and the teeth out?
Yeah, I do remember that. I was wondering what that was about, but like, yeah.
And I was going through this with them, and I might have turned some of our friends against this movie with like just how the way I see it, but I don't know what you were trying to say here, Bakshi, if it was anything positive. It just feels like you made this movie because you were mad, not because you were mad in a way that was productive in the same way that Coonskin was.
Yeah, I think this was just like a general distaste for the 50s nostalgia, and there was a lot of 80s nostalgia in this because this movie I think came out in 1982 if I'm not mistaken.
It did. Yeah.
And there was just like a lot of like 80s synth and synth pop going on in the background of this movie, and watching it today in 2026, I'm like, this feels like a movie made in the 1980s. It feels very of its time.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a movie that's made in this modern period because you see how much these Gen X movie makers idolize this period now.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it.
I think that's it for Hey Good Lookin'.
Yep.
I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this movie no more.
Yeah. It's probably my fault we talked about it as long as we did because I just watched it.
Fucking fire and ice. Let's go into it.
Again, one I haven't seen because I've been told it's actually not all that great.
You're not missing too much with this, and it saddens me to say that because, well, I know why. I know what's missing. I can qualify. It's a weird problem to say. So what this movie is, fantasy movies were begin to be really popular and profitable during this time, and Ralph Bakshi already had two movies that did well, Wizards and Lord of the Rings. So he gets in contact with Frank Frazetta, who's a man that created all these different pictures of. Have you ever seen a barbarian man in a loincloth holding up a big sword while a woman clings to his leg?
Yep.
That kind of picture. That's what Frank Frazetta is known for. He's the man that popularized that.
He-Man, it was in Conan, it was in Heavy Metal.
And speaking of, The Beastmaster and Conan the Barbarian were two movies that really struck it big during this time. So Ralph Bakshi got in contact with Frank Frazetta and said, "Hey, do you want to do your own version of these movies?" He said, "Sure." They got a budget of $10 million, and they didn't even make $1 million back in the box office.
No. From what I'm seeing on the Wikipedia page, there's a box office. It had a budget of $10 million, and the box office was $860,000. That is,
and that hurts. That hurts.
Yeah, that's a crushing defeat.
because you could see the funding in this. Like, this is Ralph Bakshi finally working with a good ass budget, because the frames per second in this movie for this time, it's a movie that looks really good, and the rotoscoping in it is really good. The character designs are pretty cool. I mean, Lauren needs to go ahead and cut that ponytail off the back of his head, but besides that, it's really solid design. And it's what you would expect from Frank Frazetta, where we have a big, muscular man with a sword, with a woman that's seemingly in her underwear, following him around, fighting all these different, like, chimpanzee Neanderthal men that don't know how to fight for shit. And it should be awesome, so why isn't it? Is the issue. And I think I realize why it is. With every movie that we talked about before, that was Ralph Bakshi doing what he wanted to do. And even with Lord of the Rings, that was an adaptation. That was still Bakshi's own vision of what he thought Lord of the Rings was supposed to be. There was still a lot of him involved in it, because you see his stylistic choices in that movie, down to the way he animates the orcs, for example, in Lord of the Rings. It's all Bakshi's decision. But this isn't a Ralph Bakshi movie, it's a Frank Frazetta movie, and it feels like a Frank Frazetta movie. It feels like all the stuff you're seeing in it is derivative and referential of its own style and of its own self.
Yes.
Where Lauren feels like a stock protagonist of this kind of genre. Tigra, who's the princess, feels derivative of herself. And even Dark Wolf, who's on the cover of that man with the animal over his face and the axe, is a pretty cool character, but he feels stock in of himself too, where he's just a guy who basically comes in halfway through the movie and just solves the problem of the movie. The whole thing is that it's this very queer-coded villain, by the way. Like, this is a guy who shudders in the presence of a woman, but shows interest in men when it comes to Tigra and Lauren.
I do think it's funny that his name is Dark Wolf, and like 3 films ago we were talking about wizards.
About Black Wolf, but the villain is it's this guy called Necron, who's this evil ice wizard with this giant glacier castle that's moving and destroying the world. And his mom, Juliet, is the woman that's like the woman behind the man, and the two of them don't get along. And he's expanding the empire, so she goes and kidnaps Tigra to become his wife, but he's not interested in women, he's more interested in Lauren. He takes his clothes off just to fight the man, for example. And then Dark Wolf just comes in and basically fights Necron for him, because Lauren gets his ass beat, but then Necron loses to Dark Wolf, while Tigra fights off Juliet by herself, and then Lauren is just kind of here, for all intents and purposes. I mean, he got Tigra from point A to point B, so I guess that counts for something, but
yeah,
he's just not as impressive as characters that were inspired by Frazetta's style and went off to improve upon it, because it doesn't matter who does it first, it's who does it better. When it came to the Battle Royale games, sure, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was the game that did it first. But Fortnite was the game that came out after that, did it better in every way, in a more accessible, popularized way, and its legacy is now secure.
Yes.
It's known as the market leader. That's the same thing that Conan the Barbarian did. Where Conan was the series that caught on, became the codifier of this kind of style, and now overshadows the man that made the own style.
Yep. There was the popularization of the kind of like sandalpunk fantasy.
And it's not this couldn't be done and still be profitable, because He-Man went off and still did well, and then you had the Golden Axe games for the Sega Genesis and the arcade that did very well for their time.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that, He-Man had a lot more personality to it. Like, everything that you've described about Fire and Ice and everything that I've seen about it just feels really, really stock in comparison to all the other films we talked about.
It feels like a standard movie. Like, if you want a sort of barbarian fantasy movie, this is what it looks like, and this is what comes to your mind immediately.
This is just the most film that is ever filmed.
Yeah, and that's why it didn't really catch on either. Where, kind of put it in perspective, I tried to watch this movie 5 different times, and I only succeeded on the 5th time. And even then, I was skipping scenes I'd already seen before.
So you're just kind of like piecemealing it just because it was like a very unremarkable movie.
And I don't get it too, because there's a lot of quiet moments in Fire and Ice where it's just Lorne by himself in nature. And a lot of scenes that have no dialogue at all, where it's just the one scene in this movie that's pretty cool is when Lauren fakes his death and you have the Frazetta men looting the bodies, and then Lauren gets up, smacks the guy in the jaw with a mace, and then has to escape them. That scene's awesome. But everything else, I don't get it, because Samurai Jack did the same thing, where there was a lot of moments in Samurai Jack where it's just Jack by himself in nature in silence. But I think I know what it is that it was the stylization of Samurai Jack as well. Because no blue skies, no green grass was the motto for Samurai Jack's design. Where
it had a very
the direction
style
too
that lent itself to that sort of pacing. And
where we're like, we have these different shots where we're super zoomed in close to Jack, or we see a shot from perspective of a guy who's stalking Jack. That's kind of shots like that. But we just have guy in the jungle shots in Fire and Ice.
And it's just kind of wandering around.
It's just not that interesting of a movie, and I don't want to say it because I like the dark sun setting of D&D, so I should like this movie, but it's not there.
Yeah.
It just ain't there.
I mean, there are ways to do it and do it better, and this is not one of them.
It's not. It really isn't. And this was kind of like the death spiral, because for a while, Bakshi couldn't get any work in any movies after this came out. He went off, did a bunch of stuff for TV, where it was like the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse, the Butter Battle book. Basically, he's the reason why John Kricfalusi has a career. The biggest mistake of his life was giving that man a job.
Wait, what did he go on to make?
John Kricfalusi was the guy who made Ren and Stimpy.
Well, I don't know about that because, I mean,
Well, John Kricfalusi is also the guy that has had a lot of inappropriate relationships with teenage girls.
Yeah, that's true.
Allegedly, I have to say for legal reasons, but we know what we know. And along with it too, this man burnt out and all of his goodwill with cancel labels, which was what we were pretty sure was a Kickstarter scam until he released a big batch of dog shit, and then I guess just not a scam because I pay for something and it's shit.
Well, this is
Incredible.
why you
I love
don't pay
Kickstarter.
for something until you have it.
Exactly that. But Kickstarter.
Yeah. Good old Kickstarter.
Let's talk about Cool World. Let's talk about Cool World. Let's talk about this fucking dumpster fire.
This is one that this is another one I haven't seen, but you've referenced a lot in Disco by Night, one of the games that you ran.
And anytime we're in the Umbra in a Vampire the Masquerade game or World of the Apocalypse game, I will use screenshots of this movie in those scenes. And I can't blame Bakshi for this one because he was screwed over by the network bad with this movie. He went to Paramount Pictures, which was a mistake. The whole legend goes is that Frank Mancuso Jr. was supposed to finance this movie. Can you call yourself a fan of a movie if you like the prototype and the concept of the movie and the concept art of the movie, but not the actual movie itself?
Well, I mean,
is that something you can say? Because there's two movies I can say that with. Wish 2023, where everything that was in the planning stage of Wish was fucking keynote, and the finished project fucking sucked. And Cool World is the other project that has that issue. Because this was supposed to be a hard R-rated horror movie, where Roger Rabbit came out, he proved that yes, we can do live action animation together in the same scenes. And what this was supposed to be is that it was a deconstruction of the interspecies romance. You want a fucking cartoon character? Ralph Bakshi's here and you say that at different conventions that he's going to? Alright, fine. You fucked the cartoon character. You got that cartoon character pregnant, and now that character is now a half-human, half-toon abomination with severe imposter syndrome and borderline personality disorder that feels like she doesn't belong in either world and becomes a serial killer. That was the original premise of this movie. How fucking awesome does that sound?
That sounds like a phenomenal concept.
But instead of that, Frank Mancuso Jr. looked at this and said, I don't want to direct a horror movie, sold off the script to two other people who completely rewrote the script, handed it to Bakshi and said, hey, here's your movie. And Bakshi responded by punching him in the face. And then Frank said, oh, do the job that I'm paying you to do or I'm going to sue you. Like, why didn't you just sue him then?
Yeah, like, at this point, from Fire and Ice onward, actually, Hey Good Lookin onward, I feel like Ralph just could not catch a break.
Yeah, because this was when the problem that he saw in Heavy Traffic, came to fruition. All of the old guards that you worked with before were either out of the business or dead. And you were now stuck with a bunch of corporate executives that wanted to take everything you had and turn it into whatever the fuck they wanted instead. And this was an issue that was every fucking where in the 90s, Kyle. Mm-hmm. Where Weinstein did a bunch of evil shit, but he really was the one man that actually gave a fuck about it.
He did give a fuck about films, sad as that is to say.
Where I remember the whole story behind Good Will Hunting was that the people that wrote the screenplay for Good Will Hunting put a 20-page sex scene in the movie, and Weinstein was the only man who came to him and said, "Hey, I was wanting to greenlight this movie, but I saw a sex scene was in it." And they said, "We want you to be the one that makes this movie because you're the only person who RSVP'd us and asked us about that scene. You're the only person who actually read the script we gave you."
Yeah. And he's probably, I feel like they might have just done that just to see like who would actually read the goddamn script.
And out of all of the people, only one of them did.
Yeah.
And that was the sad state in the 90s, because you had so much bad shit getting made in the 90s, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about 80s movies in positive light. We don't do it with 90s movies.
No. The
90s
90s were a
got
very
bad.
transitional period because a lot like grunge, it was when the monoculture started to crack a bit. Like, sure, you got some bangers like The Simpsons and King of the Hill and, you know, a couple of really solid movies. Like, you know, you got The Rock, but The Rock's still kind of an homage to, like, cheesy 80s action.
Right.
But then you've got just, like, some weird shit that goes on. Like, a lot of direct-to-DVD, or direct-to...
Like Independence Day sucked. Like, fucking Armageddon sucked.
I don't know. There's some charm in those movies, but, like, you could tell it's
Fifth
like...
Element was fucking dog shit. I Will Die on That Hill. That movie was fucking terrible.
I don't know. It felt like the action was a lot more ironic. It didn't have that same over-the-top punch that the 80s had with films like Predator or Alien or...
it's so much bleeding edge was in the 90s, too, where movies were edgy just for the sake of being edgy.
Exactly.
And
so
we had no identity in the 90s besides just angst.
Yeah.
But looking through this movie, what was supposed to be fucking awesome instead just became that movie that does what Roger Rabbit does, but worse.
Yeah.
Where, what's the plot of this movie? Well, I wish I could tell you, Kyle, because it's fucking on. It's like Brad Pitt gets in a motorcycle accident and goes to a cartoon world. And then a guy who supposedly writes the cartoon world gets sucked into his cartoon world in prison and then meets Brad Pitt there. And Brad Pitt says, "Hey, I existed in this world before you ever made it. So it's not your world. I guess it just came to you in your sleep." And then there's like Kim Basinger plays Holly Wood, like the woman with the blonde hair and the big tits in this picture, mm-hmm. who's trying to get into the real world. But how you get into the real world is through having sex with a human that turns you into a human, and then you can go into the real world because of that. And then Brad Pitt has to hunt her down, and then Brad Pitt dies. But then because he was a human that was killed by a cartoon, he becomes a cartoon. And then the guy who drew the comic becomes a superhero voiced by a totally different guy. And then now he's in a new comic that he is writing and starring in by himself, where Holly's the main villain. And that's your story.
Yeah, it sounds kind of fucking all over the place.
It sounds AI generated, doesn't it?
I don't know about AI generated. I just think it's unfocused.
It's just shit just happens. And when it comes down to scenes too, shit just happens as well, because for the first 2 days of animating, there was no script. So Ralph actually said, just draw whatever the fuck you want, and I'll just put it in the movie somewhere. And so that was the case.
Yep, good job.
Where along with it too, like script changing, there was continuous executive meddling, where Ken Basinger got involved in as well and said, "Hey, I think this scene's too graphic. I want this to be changed. I want this to be changed." Where so much meddling happened in the movie, where by that point Ralph was just going into work just to punch his clock in and get paid, and then just dip so he doesn't get sued. And that's the only reason why he was still here.
I could have blamed him with all the bullshit that went on in the background of this film. Like, it could have been something really incredible, but due to just all the bullshit that Paramount did to him, it just went terribly off the rails.
And this was the straw that broke the camel's back too. He said, "All right, fuck this shit, I'm out." This was him calling it quits with movies, with his But as bad as it went, it wasn't that he tried getting work somewhere else and he was just rejected because of Cool World. It was more that this went so horribly wrong, he said, all right, fuck it, I don't want to deal with this shit ever again.
And honestly, I can't say I blame him.
And it bites because even with the fucking mangled up, janked up script that we have, there's still there are plenty of good scenes in this movie too. Because partially thanks to there being no script in the early days, they animated whatever they wanted. So there's just so many different styles that are in this movie as well. Where the backgrounds in this movie look fucking tastic. This is why I use them in the live plays that we do. And there's like Disney characters in some scenes, like 90s cartoon edgy characters in some scenes, like 1940s like Grim Fleischer's characters in some scenes, where all these different characters just exist within the same world. And it's fun. It's just fun seeing these characters all interact and be in the same place. But then you have Brad Pitt, who's whispering the entire movie, and then Gabriel, I don't even remember what this actor's name was.
Let me see. Gabriel Bryan.
Yeah, and his performance is the worst part of the movie.
Yep.
His lines are only like one word in length, and he's out of breath the entire movie too. And
it just doesn't seem like all that great of a movie, and the sales reflected that. It had a budget of $28 million, only made half of it back at the box office.
And that was it. That was supposed to be like an adult Roger Rabbit movie, and that's not enough. I could just go back and watch Roger Rabbit because I have just take for it now.
I actually have not watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit in years.
That movie deserves its legacy.
Yeah, I do remember watching, some of it when I was younger, but I kind of want to go back and just give it a full watch again.
But everything involving this, it's just, if you want to see a shit show in movie form, it's Cool World.
Yeah.
But if you want to look at this and try to see a project that's struggling to breathe, but's not able to breathe, and that's just all. You remember the pacing issues I brought up in Wizards? They're even worse in this movie. Because shit will just happen in this movie where, we have this guy in a desert, he's walking around the desert, and now he's back in his bedroom, and now he's immediately sucked up and put to the Cool World again. All in the span of a minute.
Yeah, nothing about this makes sense.
Yeah, shit just happens. It just happens.
It's Planet Sheen before its time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a fucking throwback reference right there. It's a stuff happens comedy.
Ah, man. Shit sucks, don't it?
Yeah, it does.
So you would think this would be the end for Ralph Bakshi, and it kind of was, where he ended up making like stuff for What a Cartoon, and he got called in, John Kirk Flusy did him a favor by putting him in an episode of Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon, which is a pretty backhanded favor because it's Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon.
Which was dog shit.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
It's a genuinely uncomfortable show to watch.
I'm going to be honest, sometimes when it comes to cartooning, less can be more. But not less is more in the terms of Samurai Jack levels of minimalism. I'm talking more about what you're allowed to show. Because
did we need to see Ren ass fucking Snippy? Did we need to see that?
No, we didn't. And in all honesty, part of the joys of making something that is supposed to be general audiences is seeing what things you can get away with. Seeing what subtleties you can sneak into the movie that the kids will glaze over, but the parents will get a chuckle out of. And I feel like that's what made original Ren and Stimpy work, was something like that. In Cool World, you wouldn't have that because it was already Bakshi's known for this sort of raunchy adult comedy to begin with, but there's still an undertone of seriousness that goes between all of the laughs and all of the raunchy jokes and just general, I guess, exhibitionism that goes on in the films.
Yes, it's raunchy and poor taste for a reason.
Yes. It's there because it's a bright marquee to make you forget that there's somebody with a gun behind the counter.
Yes. And that's the sentiment that a lot of people are starting to feel today.
Yes.
But We have one more movie to talk about. One that was self-financed, one that he was trying to make since 2005, and then found that Kickstarter existed in 2013, and then finally got this movie made.
I watched
It's The
about
Last Days of Coney Island,
yeah.
which is a hard.
It is difficult. I gotta be
You
honest.
need
I don't
to
think
know
I
somebody
finished
pretty well
this
to recommend
one.
this. Is this? We're in on a dark note with this one.
Yeah.
Where you remember how I said that Hey Good Lookin is a cynical movie?
Mhm.
This is even worse for a reason.
Yeah.
This
I only watched
is the
about half of this movie.
1960s, where if you thought the 1950s were bad, well, maybe they were, but not as bad as the 1960s. No, this was a genuinely tumultuous time in American history,
Yes.
where this was when the supervillains that controlled the world really did make themselves known. And that is, it realized that there was not going to be a pleasant change without any sort of compromise to the powers that be.
Yep.
That, as it turns out, we know what happened in these files. We know what happened with the world around us. We know about all this corruption today. We didn't know about it back then. But we began to suspect that something was wrong, and we had the Summer of Love, and we were trying to push against it the best we could until that was completely killed by Richard Nixon. And then any chance of it being revived was given the final death blow by Ronald Reagan. And now we live in the world today, so this is a very unhappy movie. It's essentially, we go back to New York for the last movie. We mostly focus on a character called Shorty, who is a guy who's a dwarf.
A clown.
Yeah, a clown. He went right into it.
Yep.
And I caught my mother, who was a fortune teller, and she was with a clown. A clown.
Why is it always the clowns?
My mother never loved me very much. Yeah, me neither.
The scene with the fortune teller mom and the clown too. I see in your future sex. When?
Yep. And then there's just like him 2 frames a second, him charging into the room with an axe, and then the screen's just full of organs.
Oh yeah, that's a scene that you see in your nightmares.
Yeah, that was like genuinely hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. Where it holds just how gory it is too, and then the mafia finds out, hey, you killed your mom. You get to work for the mafia now. You get to run a freak show, and Shorty's trying to get with this girl called Molly, but Molly's actually dating this guy called Max, and Max's partner Louie is gay and is trying to get Max to become gay for him, but it's not working out. They hate each other. Louie, in order to get Max to turn gay, gets Molly arrested for prostitution. Molly goes to prison. Max becomes a broken man, breaks away from Louie, goes around Coney Island, finds Molly on the street, says, I can't get together with you. I'm old and I'm too worn out. I can't get with you. And then Shorty kills Molly out of spite, frames Max for the murder, and basically gets away with everything he did. And that's the movie for you. It's a very short movie,
It's
as you
a
can tell.
short film, and it's a very, very unhappy film.
It looks back into what really was a dark moment in American history. And you feel it. You feel the weight of that time on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Where this was right when we realized that the Summer of Love was never going to work, that all this civil rights movement shit was never going to really get better because culture wasn't going to change. This was when we learned how fucking corrupt the government was, and that we were just left with the ugliness of the world around us. And instead of trying to find a way out of it and through it like Michael did, Shorty just submerges himself in it.
Yeah, this is the bad ending of
Heavy Traffic.
Heavy Traffic, yeah. In all honesty, it kind of reminds me a lot of a piece that oh goodness gracious, I had his name. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. What was his name?
Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson. It has a very like nihilistic Hunter S. Thompson view of America in the 1960s. It's that whole thing that he wrote, like, hey, the American dream is dead. Party's over. You're paying for it. And that's very much what the last days of Coney Island feel like. This feels like a party's over kind of movie.
It certainly feels like it today because the shoe is about to drop off the other foot in America now.
Yup. Shit's fucked, but hey, what are you going to do?
Well, not what's in this movie, of course.
Oh, certainly not. No.
It's the same way, I think, like me and Victor were talking about Coffin Vanny and Lele, and he said something along the lines of comfort the disturbed, disturb the comforted. where for me, Hey Good Lookin was just an ugly movie that I just didn't like. But this is a movie that's even uglier by design, and I don't dislike it. And I think I know why. And it's because you're not supposed to empathize with Shorty in this. You're not supposed to be on Max's side with any of this. That all the characters are unlikable in this movie on purpose. And it's because you're not supposed to emulate anything these people did.
Yeah. There is no good guy in this movie because there never was, is what it seems to be.
That you're just looking through a nightmare, and it's a very brief nightmare where it goes to show that, hey, you might have this darkness within you. This is where it's going to get you. Do not act on it.
Yeah, it's more so a cautionary tale more than anything, this film.
Where these will be your last days if this is how you respond to everything around you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, you're going to be where Shorty is, where you framed another man for a crime that you committed, but you have nothing. None of your employees in the freak show like you. You have no family. You have no relatives. You have no children. You ultimately will die, and nobody will remember.
Yep. It feels very much like a death of a salesman kind of ending.
It really does feel like that, where it's not even like an anti-hero. It's more like just a straight-up villain protagonist.
It is. He is a villain protagonist, Shorty. And, just given by how everything leads back to violence in this film. Mm-hmm. It's like there is no good resolution to anything that occurs in the movie.
Mm-mm. And by the end of the movie, just about everyone's fucking dead because Max is in the rest of his life in prison. Shorty's just going to spend the rest of his life being alone. Louie and the barkeep are just going to drive off and get into a car accident, and then Molly's shot dead.
Exactly.
And that's it, where everything's just going to burn out because you just live life's vices, and this is where it got you.
Yep. Nothing was improved by taking all of the wrong courses of action.
Mm-hmm. And
matter of fact, everything is demonstrably worse for it.
And there is one hard sell to this movie, and it's also the animation style. Now, granted, Bakshi was animating this all by himself, and this is twice the length of Can't Spell Out Labels.
Yes.
And he did this within the span of 2 years. Now, this is something that he did off and on, because I looked through the trailers for this project, and a lot of stuff got changed from A to B. Like, Molly was supposed to live a lot longer in this movie, for example, from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy that clearly was, like, recorded these lines years ago, was working with what he had, was constantly like redrawing and re-adding and taking stuff back out and putting stuff back in throughout the entire movie, trying to get it just right, changing his mind as he was doing it. And I don't think we really had like a final production period until the last 2 years, when this finally got kickstarted in 2013 and released in 2015, on YouTube in 2016. And that's why it looks the way it does, because you can say that it's almost like an animatic more than animation.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, as dark as a movie as this is, it kind of plays to its benefit with how rough it looks.
Yeah, it plays like a nightmare, which is exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a nightmare in motion.
It's abrasive, and it's supposed to be abrasive, where if it was super fluid, I feel like some of the punches would probably be pulled, especially the scene where he kills the clown.
Yes. This, it's a weird comparison, but this feels like the Saint Anger of Ralph Bakshi's filmography.
Yeah, like, it's something that you wouldn't really recommend to anyone, but you know what's in it, and for what the project is and for what was accomplished in it, you can appreciate that.
Yeah. But then again, as somebody who's a fan of, like, really heavy hardcore, and somebody who's a fan of, like, really gritty, rough punk rock, like some crust punk, this feels like a crust punk album come to life, is what it feels like. It feels like something that was just made with a raw fury that cannot be replicated, but between the noise of the fury, there is a story and a message to be taken from it, that the violence that you have in your heart enacted on the world only begets further violence, and nothing will be improved because of it.
Mm-hmm. Where that's technically the last movie he's made, so we're on the movies.
Yeah.
And as for what's Ralph Bakshi doing now, painting.
Yeah.
He's just got a painting career. Yep.
Pretty much.
And for what I can tell, like, this man got awarded for his legacy in 2021, and the Anima Fest Zagreb Lifeline Achievement. That's what the award is called. Where we would not have adult animation today if it wasn't for this man.
Yes, Ralph Bakshi is perhaps one of the most influential people in all of adult film and animation. And
But this man would then go off and make so much stuff that would be my favorite things.
exactly.
But, well, not he didn't make it, but he inspired the creation of.
Yeah.
He got the foot open, which is why I decided to let's do a video about this guy, because I genuinely like his work, most of it, and I want to do an entire video about it. But we still,
Yep, and I absolutely, and it was Johnny who first introduced me to Ralph Bakshi through Fritz the Cat, and from that, like, I continued to watch more of Ralph Bakshi, and learned about him through, honestly, a lot of what I learned about him was also through the characters and stories that Johnny told on the podcast and in the games that we played. A lot of Bakshi's influence runs through this podcast, which is why we felt it's so important to talk about him and the stories that he told.
He is one of my favorite artists, period.
He is a phenomenal artist. He absolutely deserves every ounce of praise that we can afford him.
And so there we are. Happy April Fools, everybody.
Yep. Happy Easter, happy Passover. Shabbat Shalom.
The Ralph Bakshi podcast, there will not be a second episode.
Nope. We will not be taking questions. Good night.
GN.